untuk duduk di tempat yang sudah disediakan karena acara akan segera dimulai. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The Honorable Rector of Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, Professor ICSPS-APSSI Pudin Jahar. The Honorable Deputy Chancellor for Cooperation and Institution of Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, Dean Wahid MA PhD. The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, Professor Zuriatun Toibah, and the lecturers and staff and academics. The Honorable Deputy Dean of the School of Social Science and Professor in Western Sydney University, Australia, Professor Adam Posamai. The Honorable Senior Lecturer in International Relations, Queensland University, Australia, Dr. Melissa Carley. The Honorable Professor in International Development Administration at Universitas Pajajaran, Professor Ida Widyaningsih, MA PhD. The Honorable Professor Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, Professor Iim Halimatus Sa'diyah, MA PhD. The Honorable Senior Lecturer at Universitas Gadjah Mada, Muhammad Najib Aska, MA. The Honorable Speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi dan selamat datang kepada yang terhormat Rektor Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Profesor ICSPS-APSSI Pudin Jahar. Yang kami hormati Bapak Dean Wahid MA PhD, selaku Wakil Rektor Bidang Kerjasama dan Kelembagaan Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. Yang kami hormati Dekan Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Profesor Zuriatun Toibah, beserta jajarannya yang tidak bisa saya sebut satu persatu tanpa mengurangi rasa hormat saya sedikit pun. Yang kami hormati kelima pembicara kita pada hari ini, Profesor Adam Posamai dari Western Sydney University, Australia, Dr. Melissa Carley dari Queensland University, Australia, Profesor Ida Widyaningsih MA PhD dari Universitas Pajajaran, Profesor Iim Halimatus Sa'diyah MA PhD dari Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Dr. Muhammad Najib Aska MA dari Universitas Gadjah Mada, dan tentunya hadirin tamu undangan yang berbahagia. Salam sejahtera, Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to extend a warm welcome to Bahtiar Effendi Auditorium at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, and express our gratitude for participating panel discussion ICSPS International Conference on Social and Political Sciences 2024. I am Anggita Sabilaisna and my partner, Laina Arinal Hakwe. We have the honor of guiding you through today's proceedings. Kami ucapkan selamat datang kepada tamu undangan dan hadirin sekalian pada acara ICSPS 2024 di Auditorium Bahtiar Effendi, Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik Universitas Islam Negeri Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta. Sebelum acara dimulai, izinkan kami memperkenalkan diri terlebih dahulu. Saya Laina Arinal Hakwe dan Anggita Salsabila Hisna selaku pemandu acara pada hari ini. The Honorable, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise and sing together our beloved national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Hadirin yang kami hormati, acara selanjutnya menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Hadirin dimohon duduk kembali. Now we move to the next agenda. It is welcoming speech. We would like to invite to the podium to deliver a welcoming speech as Conference General Chair, Dr. Ahmad Abrori, MSI. To Dr. Abrori, this time is yours. Hadirin yang kami hormati, acara selanjutnya yakni sambutan yang akan disampaikan oleh Ketua Pelaksana Dr. Ahmad Abrori. Kepadanya dipersilakan dengan hormat.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Good morning to everyone, to our Honorable Rector UIN Hidayatullah Jakarta. It's now represented by Dr. Din Wahid MA. He is Deputy Director for Cooperation and Institutional Affairs. Good morning to Ibu Dekan, Dean of Faculty of Social Science, Political and Social Science, UIN Jakarta, Professor Dr. Zuriyatun Toibah, to the guests, to our invited speakers, Prof. Adam Posamai. He is my supervisor at Western Sydney University. So this is such an honor because this is the first time for him to come to the country. And also to Dr. Melissa Curley from University of Queensland. Yeah, she is a supervisor for my colleague, Dr. Faisal Nurdin. He will be a moderator. And also to Ibu Profesor Ida Widyaningsih, MA PhD from Universitas Pajajaran, Unpad. Welcome to UIN, Ibu. And we will have also Pak Dr. Najib Azka from Universitas Gadjah Mada, UGM, who will deliver a speech online. And we have Professor Iim Halimatus Sa'dia, young professor from this faculty. We have very proud of her. And also all presenters and participants of ICPS 2024. First of all, let us express our gratitude toward Allah, the Almighty, whose blessings are always with us, so that we all can be here in good condition and health. And also let us send our prayer to Allah to blessing the Prophet Muhammad and express our hope in order to having a great salvation in hereafter. Secondly, Bapak Ibu semua, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to welcome all of you to this international conference. And I am especially very excited to welcome the participant who take part in this year's conference. According to our record, there are 150 participants of this conference. They come from more than 40 universities, both abroad and across the country. Please allow me to mention the universities. Here we have presenters from New York University and Gujarat University. Maybe they will be joined online. But mostly the presenters are from across the country. From western side of archipelago, Sumatra Island, we have Universitas Shah Aceh, Universitas Teguh Umar Melabu Aceh, Universitas Sumatera Utara Medan, State Christian Institute Medan, Universitas Negeri Medan, Universitas Riau, Andalas, Sriwijaya, and Unila. And in the middle of archipelago, we have Untan, Tanjung Pura, Palangkaraya, PGRI Palangkaraya. And also we have participants from the eastern side of the country, from Universitas Negeri Makassar, Patimura, Hasanuddin, Halu Oleo, from Muhammadiyah Kupang, from Universitas Negeri Gorontalo, Universitas Trunojoyo Madura, Udayana, and Nusa Cendana Uncen. And then also from Java Island, we have UI, Universitas Indonesia Depok, UIN Jakarta, this university, UT, Pajajaran, Unpad, UGM, UNS, Unsud, UBB, UIN Surabaya, Yogyakarta, and Bandung, Universitas Negeri Jakarta, UNER, UNAS, UMM, UNES, UNESA, and UPI Bandung. So thirdly, about the conference, the International Conference of Social and Political Science, and we call it ICPS, was beginning to be held for the first time in 2015. The event was then run annually until 2019. That the 2019 is the fifth one, but it had been stopped afterward because the COVID-19 pandemic and other internal circumstances. This year, we initiate to organize the conference and propose to APSSI. APSSI organization, APSSI is the Indonesian Association for the Officer of the Study Program of Sociology, to run its program simultaneously in this campus. This is why the presenters are mostly from members of APSSI. Besides this, the committee is also calling for collaboration with Universitas Pajajaran, Unpad, Bu Prof. Ida, organize, Bu Prof. Ida organize, send the lecturers and students to come here to be participant. Thank you, Prof. Ida. And to make the event merrier, we have also initiated to have call for undergraduate students, from all universities to participate in competition of best paper and presentation. Fourthly, about the theme of conference, ICPS 2024 entitles the conference with pursuing sustainable and inclusive development through global collaboration. Currently, I've been lecturing sociology of development, teaching my students on how important global collaboration for supporting developing countries like Indonesia. So this is in line with the theme. The literature says that modernization, dependency, and world system theory underline that developing countries still need superpower states. For example, Indonesia, we can see that this country still looks at these countries as their role model for development. If we look again, the train station in Jakarta, Bekasi, or around the city, we can say that the appearance of this station are really look like stations in Sydney. So Australia, we hope this appearance is not only describing the country development, but also the global collaboration between Indonesia and other developed countries. We also hope this global collaboration can lead Indonesia to be developed country. At least we can live with the hope, with this hope. we can live with this hope. Last but not least, on behalf of organizing committee, I would like to apologize if there are inconvenient hospitalities, such as organizing participants or scheduling presenters in last minutes. This is because we call for participants inclusively to join the conference until 1 day before the event. We intend to do the best as we can do. We, the committee, would like to say many thanks to UIN Jakarta, to the rector, Professor APSSI UIN Jakarta, and the dean of this faculty, Prof. Zuriatun Toiba, who support us continually. We also would like to thanks to the key persons of APSSI organization who have voluntarily supervised us to make sure that work is on the track. Thank you, Ibu Ketum, Ibu Harmono Daulay. So he also Mas Nofri, Bang Damai, Bang Idam, Mbak Vivit, Mbak Ikad, and many others. And also I would like to thank to local committee from the faculty, Ibu Jamilah, Ibu Unifinita, Wahida, and the leaders of FISIP UIN Jakarta, vice deans, head of departments, and staffs. I would say many thanks for your support. Also to young lecturers of this faculty who shows their commitment to do their special job best. I would like to say thank you, and for all participants, good luck. Before I close my speech, please allow me to deliver poems. Poems is pantun, so I'm gonna say in bahasa, sorry. Pagi dan petang, suka minum es. Dari toko dibeli, bukan diminta. Selamat datang para peserta ICSPS di ICSPS di FISIP UIN Jakarta tercinta. Satu lagi ya. Peraturan mestilah dijaga ketat. Tidak boleh dilanggar meski sesaat. Kita berkonferensi di UIN Ciputat. Semoga berkah dan bermanfaat. Penutup. Jaga tensi, perulah sangat. Mari berkonvensi dengan semangat. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad Abdari, MSE, for your welcoming speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite to the podium to deliver the opening remarks as Deputy Chancellor for Cooperation and Institutions of Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, Mr. Din Wahid, MA, PhD. To Mr. Din Wahid, the time is yours.
Terima kasih Dr. Ahmad Abdori, MSI, atas sambutannya. Hadirin yang kami hormati, sambutan selanjutnya akan disampaikan oleh Rektor UIN Jakarta yang dalam hal ini akan diwakili oleh Bapak Din Wahid, MA, PhD, selaku Wakil Rektor Bidang Kerjasama dan Kelembagaan. Kepadanya dipersilakan dengan hormat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Honorable the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Science, Professor Zuriatun Toiba, distinguished invited speakers, Professor Adam Posamai from Western Sydney University, and Dr. Melissa Curley from Queensland University, Ibu Professor Ida Widyaningsi, MA PhD from Pajajaran University, and my colleague mentioned as the youngest professor in this faculty, Professor IIM Halimatus Sa'diah, and of course my colleague also, Mas Najib Azka. We were together in Netherlands while we were studying there. He is based in Amsterdam, while I'm in Utrecht University, but I was based in Leiden University. First of all, I would like to express and extend warm regard from the rector, Professor ICSPS-APSSI UIN Jakarta, and he apologized, of course, because he is unavailable to be here with us, to be present and join this conference. This is very important conference because he now has another meeting. He has also to open, to open the conference also in the main campus, just opposite to this campus. I'm lucky that Professor Asep, Pak Rector, has already prepared the welcoming speech. That's why I'm happy that I just want to read his speech for this opening remark. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my congratulations and gratitude to the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Science, who has effectively organized this event, the 6th International Conference on Social and Political Science. The convening of this international conference serves as testament to UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta's unwavering commitment to advancing knowledge and civilization, particularly in the realms of social and political science. In the face of numerous global challenges we currently confront, the theme pursuing sustainable and inclusive development through collaboration becomes profoundly relevant and strategic. Sustainable and inclusive development stands as the cornerstone for achieving brighter future for all of us. We must unite in global scale to address diverse issues such as poverty, hunger, climate change, and inequality. Collaboration amongst various stakeholders, including academics, practitioners, policymakers, is crucial in finding effective and innovative solutions. We are also honored to have academics from overseas universities such as Western Sydney University and Queensland University present in this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, on this momentous occasion, I am particularly delighted to share with you the remarkable achievement of UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta in securing prestigious position in the KS World University Ranking 2024. This groundbreaking accomplishment places our esteemed university among the top 101 and 140 institutions globally in the field of theology, divinity, and religious studies. This remarkable achievement, of course, is culmination of our unwavering dedication to academic excellence, our commitment to fostering vibrant research culture, and our relentless pursuit of internationalization. It is testament to an exceptional contribution of our esteemed faculty, the tough commitment of our dedicated staff, and the bright minds of our talented students. As we bask in the glory of this achievement, let us not forget that this is merely and this is only stepping stone on our journey towards even greater heights. We are committed to continuing our upward trajectory, striving to become beacon of knowledge and catalyst for positive change in the world. With strong determination and shared vision, we are confident that UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta will continue to ascend to new heights of academic excellence, establishing itself as leading center for groundbreaking research and transformative education. As we delve into stimulating discussions and thought-provoking presentations that lie ahead, I encourage you to embrace the spirit of intellectual curiosity and engage in open dialogues. Let us seize this opportunity to challenge our perspectives, broaden our horizons, and collectively contribute to the advancement of knowledge and betterment of our world. Ladies and gentlemen, this international conference aspires to be a platform for scholars and academics from across the globe to exchange ideas and generate scholarly works that contribute meaningfully to the advancement of knowledge and national development. I am confident that this conference will result in concrete recommendations and solutions to attain sustainable and inclusive development. On this occasion, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to the esteemed invited speakers who have joined. The expertise and experience of these invited speakers in the field of social and political sciences will be invaluable in enriching and the discussion and producing high-level scholarship. To all conference participants, I extend warm welcome to UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. I believe that you will get benefits from this conference by building networks, acquiring new knowledge, and contributing to the realization of sustainable and inclusive development. In closing, I express my sincere gratitude to all parties who have diligently strived to organize this international conference. May God bless us and give us collective endeavors and inspiration. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Din Wahid, for your opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now our privilege to comment the main session of today's panel discussion, ICSPS International Conference on Social and Political Sciences 2024. For this session, we are fortunate to have with us 5 esteemed guests who will share their invaluable knowledge and perspective through an engaging moderated discussion. To facilitate this insightful dialogue, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage Mr. Faisal Nurdin Idris, MSc PhD, a respected lecturer from the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta, will skillfully moderate this interactive session. To Mr. Faisal Nurdin Idris, the time is yours.
Terima kasih kepada Bapak Din Wahid, MA PhD atas sambutannya. Hadirin yang kami hormati, acara selanjutnya acara inti, yakni sesi diskusi ICSPS 2024 yang dalam hal ini akan dimoderatori oleh Bapak Faisal Nurdin Idris, MSc PhD, selaku dosen FISIP UIN Jakarta. Kepadanya dipersilakan dengan hormat.
Please give a round of applause to the moderator and all panelists.
Good morning, Honorable Vice Rector for Operations and Institutional Affairs, faculty leaders, the Dean, Vice Dean, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, we give thanks to Allah for blessing and mercies, and salawat and salam praise to Prophet Muhammad. Welcome to the 6th International Conference on Social and Political Sciences, hosted by the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta. Before all, I would like to invite our distinguished speakers to come in the front. Professor Adam Posamai from Western Sydney University, Australia. Dr. Melissa Curley from the University of Queensland, Australia. Professor Ida Widianingsih, MA PhD from Pajajaran University in Bandung. Professor IIM Halimatus Sa'adiyah, MA PhD from UIN Jakarta. And join with us online, Dr. Muhammad Najib Azka from Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta. So please sit, have seat. So I will be in the middle, moderator, moderating everything. This conference, along with parallel sessions, explore the main themes titled Pursuing Sustainable and Inclusive Development Through Global Collaboration. This theme was raised by considering that the world is still under pressure and our planet is coping with multiple and multidimensional crises, including post-COVID-19 pandemic recovery, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Middle East conflicts. The global community is grappling with the record inflation, rising interest rates, and debt burdens. The need for reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy, global supply chains disruption, geopolitical tensions, environmental degradation, climate change, biodiversity loss, exacerbating gaps in gender equality, and increasing global food insecurity. These are, among others, cross-cutting issues of challenges for our sustainable development. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, were established in 2015 by international community, the United Nations, and its member state as part of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in order to find sustainable and inclusive development solutions, ensuring no one is left behind by 2030. But how far these 17 SDGs will be achieved remain to be seen. Global collaboration is then essential to better achieve a strong, resilient, sustainable, and inclusive development. Turning now to our conference, we are committed to both addressing urgent and pressing issues of global development from a range of perspectives. Please allow me to introduce our distinguished speakers coming from different disciplines, including sociology, political science, and international relations. So I will first introduce Professor Adam Posamay. He is the Deputy Dean and currently is Interim Dean of the School of Social Sciences at Western Sydney University in Australia. He is Professor in Sociology of Religion. He is a former President of Australian Association for the Study of Religions, not the President Indonesia, the former President of Association. He is a visiting professor at several universities like Graduate Center at the City University of New York and the École des Études en Sciences Sociales in Paris. Professor Adam's recent publications include The Sociology of Sharia, Case Studies from Around the World, published by Springer in 2023, and Religion of Change in Australia, published by Routledge in 2022. Our chair committee, Dr. Abrori, studied his PhD with him. Secondly, Dr. Melissa Curley is senior lecturer in international relations in the School of Political Science and International Studies at the University of Queensland. Her research interests include Southeast Asian politics and international relation law, Cambodian politics, non-traditional security in East Asia, including trafficking in person and migrant smuggling, child exploitation issues, health, pandemic disease. Her recent publications include Environmental Politics under Authoritarian Regime Experiences from Southeast Asia by Griffith Asia Institute in 2023, and book chapter on governing the limit of civil society in Cambodia and Myanmar, published by Routledge in 2022. One of the important things that I studied my PhD with her. Professor Ida Widyaningsih from Pajajaran University. She is professor in International Development Administration at Public Administration Department, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Universitas Pajajaran, Indonesia, She also served as Vice Dean for Learning, Student, and Research Affairs. She obtained her PhD from Flinders Institute of Public Policy and Management, Flinders University in Australia in 2014, master degree in International Development from Center for Development Studies, Flinders University in Australia in 2005, and bachelor degree in Public Administration from UNPAD in 1995. Her recent publication includes Sport Tourism, Regional Development, and Urban Resilience, a focus on regional economic development in Lake Toba District, North Sumatra, Indonesia in 2023, and Housing Policy for Low-Income Communities in Indonesia, and it reforms an overview published by Public Policy and Administration in 2022. The fourth speaker is Professor Im Halimatus Sa'diyah, PhD from UIN Jakarta. She is a professor in sociology at the Department of Sociology, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Jakarta. Here, Professor Im obtained her PhD in sociology from Iowa State University in the United States in 2019, master degree in sociology from University of Birmingham, UK in 2007, and bachelor degree in English education. Professor Iim also director for research at the Center for the Study of Islam and Society, PPIM, UIN Jakarta. Her recent publication include Examining Muslim, Tolerance Toward Ordinary Non-Muslims, Social, Religious, and Political Tolerance in Indonesia, published by International Journal of Sociology in 2024, just recent, and Gender, Political Dynasties, and Community Assignments, Evidence from Indonesia, published by Parliamentary Affairs in 2024. Our last speaker is Muhammad Najib Aska. Dr. Muhammad Najib Aska is senior lecturer at the Department of Sociology. He is at the head of UGM Center for Security and Peace Studies and deputy chairman of the Indonesian Sociological Association. He obtained her PhD from the Amsterdam Institute for Social Science Research, University Amsterdam in Netherlands in 2011. Master degree at Southeast Asia Graduate Center, Faculty of Asian Studies at Australia National University ANU in Canberra in 2003, and bachelor degree in sociology from Department of Sociology from University of Gajah Mada. His recent publication include The Woman Behind the Mujahidin Eastern Indonesia, Negotiating Agency and Gender Dynamics, published by Journal of Studies in Conflict and Terrorism in 2024. Gender Youth Transition in Local Jihad Indonesia, Negotiating Agency in Arranged Marriage, published in 2023. Now, I will please to Professor Adam Posamai for presentation, please.
So delighted to be here. Thank you so much for this very kind invitation, and thank you for this very warm introduction. And so Dr. Ahmad Habori set me to the challenge to address the theme of the conference and speak about religion. I'm a sociologist of religion, but speak about SDGs and religion, especially from a Western perspective. And the title of my presentation is on religion and post-secular sustainable development goals. Is this better? Perfect, thank you. And I come from Western Sydney University, and of course, we are quite delighted that in terms of the Times Higher Education impact rankings with regards to meeting the SDG as set by the United Nations, that would be #1 in the world 2 years in a row. And we are quite proud of this. SDGs, you mentioned the SDGs. 17 goals as listed in the slide. 17 goals that have been established in 2015. 2015, which I believe is the years in which you started those conferences. And my presentation will discuss theories of post-secularism. And I will be able to unpack what I mean by post-secularism, especially when applied to SDGs. And as a sociologist, I use a Weberian perspective, and I look at the way this new theory emerged at the time that neoliberalism became a hegemony. And I will look at how religious groups, especially faith-based organizations, are attempting to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And my question, when I started to do this research for this paper, was to question the literature when the literature was claiming a turn to religion when it comes to addressing the SDGs. We know that religions have been involved in charity work for thousands of years. We know that religions have been active in civil society for the betterment of society. But when it comes to the SDG, there's been a claim that religion are now part of the development, part of the public sphere when it comes to working on those SDGs. And many faith-based organizations that have been researched have been claiming that for them, the SDGs are not that new to them, but it helps them for their work. And this is something that I will cover throughout my presentation. But first, I would like to inquire why, when development became such a buzzword, especially after the Second World War, 60s, 70s, and developing, led by nation state, why religion wasn't involved. There was a firm belief that religion, for many secular governments, and of course I come here from a Western perspective, in which government were dominated by a secular agenda, that religions could be an obstacle to development because of certain theologies. And here I bring a Judeo-Christian background about the human rights to master the earth that has been claimed to be at the root of Western's attitude towards the earth. And also the idea that some religious groups believe in the end of the world, believe in the apocalypse, and claim that nothing is worth doing. And you had many secular organizations not wanted to get involved with religions when it comes to development at the end of the last century. Bearing in mind as well that many secular governments believe that religion, if they didn't vanish, and again, I come from a Western perspective, they will be at least not be involved in the public sphere. And I'll come back to this notion of secularism afterwards. But the reality, as I like to argue all the time when it comes to religion, is that the reality was far more complex. You had theologians already working at the end of the last century, trying to revise the way we think about religion. Sorry, getting used to it. The way we think about religion with regards to development. And here's the work of an Australian theologian, Norm Hubble, who spoke about heavenism. His argument is that it wasn't the holy text that was preventing people to work on development. It was the interpretation. And he speaks about heavenism, and that's a quote from an interview he gave at the radio. Heavenism is, for me, that belief that what's really important is God in heaven, making, as it were, heaven or important home instead of earth or home. viewing the earth as disposable. In the end, the earth is going to come to an end. That's what we thought. This is just matter. And so it doesn't really matter what happens to it. I believe that we need a whole new orientation here that has us recognize the earth as a spiritual entity as much as it is a material entity. Something that is really a sacred side in this cosmos. So here we've got a quote from a Christian theologian rereading the Bible and trying to find ways to recognize the earth more than a simple material entity. Claim to be that it's spiritual entity as well. And during that time period, you had a move as well towards what's called eco-theology, the revision of theology towards development, towards the earth. And you had theologians reinterpreted classic texts to make sense of the natural crisis, because it was believed that at that time we were forgotten about the wealth of ecological material found in those scriptures. And they believed that if we had allowed our lives to be driven by those religious virtues that were found in those revised understanding, they will have to take account a respectful approach to nature, and they claim that we could have avoided a deeper dystopic approach to understanding the development of the world. Now, that said, you have theologians revising the text at the end of the last century, trying to embrace development. But it's not those revisions that really help religions to go back into the public sphere and be fully involved in the development of those SDGs. And for this, I need to go back to another development. The development of neoliberalism, something that has changed in the way we think about how we manage not only the government, businesses, but the private life as well. I'm not going to go too much in detail about neoliberalism, that ideology that started with Thatcher and Reagan in the 80s, that developed, that moved away some responsibility from the state to organizations. But this neoliberalism now is hegemonic. We take it for granted. And part of this move, development of neoliberalism, was a slow diminishing of the welfare state, a way to take away funds from the state and put the responsibility on individuals to look after themselves. Of course, it is even helped to reduce the amount of people who need support, even eradicate the need for charity. And many Western countries, Australia, the UK, United States, New Zealand, thought that a good way to overcome those gaps in the welfare state, which wasn't as funded as it was before by the state, was to work with religious groups, especially faith-based organizations. Faith-based organizations have been involved in charity work for centuries, have been working and helping people. And they claim that they knew what they were doing, far more than some secular organization. And they've been brought into this process to help those in need. So religions have had an interest in physical warfare for a very long time, as we all know. However, the difference today is a refocused interest in them by so-called secular governments, and more specifically in their organizations that are directed specifically to a non-religious public utility. Religions went back to the public sphere because of the need to fill those gaps from the welfare state that was probably unintended consequences of the development of neoliberalism. And as part of those faith-based organization, we had faith-based development organizations as well. The public sphere is not just within countries, it's at the international levels as well. And the way we work on development changed as well with the advance of neoliberalism. We had the Washington Consensus at the end of the last century, trying to put the responsibility of development away from nation states to organizations. And faith-based development organizations were able to come and be involved in development as well because of all the years of war with charity groups. But as I speak, of course, I come from a Western perspective, and when we speak about faith-based organization in a Western country, it tends to be dominated by Christian groups. But at international level, there's been some developments across many groups. And here's a reference to the work of ASIA, who speaks about Muslim faith-based development organization. And if neoliberalism has allowed religions to come back in the public spheres to participate in development, there's been also some work being done in following this new hegemony and revising the way that faith-based development organizations are working on development. And here I make reference to the work of ATIA, as I mentioned, and those faith-based organizations adapt principles of charity based on the Islamic faith, which promotes neoliberal practices such as financial investment, entrepreneurship, self-help strategies, and management science. So I spoke to you about the issue at the end of the last century in which religions were not involved in the official discourse when it comes to development. I mentioned the development of neoliberalism that opened the door for religion to come back in the public sphere. And around that same time, a third development happened in terms of ideas, the development of post-secularism. Now, the notion of secularism is a very Western base. The idea that in the Western world, in the 19th century or 20th century, religion was supposed to disappear. The hardline were thinking that religion wouldn't have its place as modernity was advancing, and by modernity, the development of urbanization, science, and education. And you had the soft proponent of secularism saying that if religion stays, it has to be private, stays only within the family, and cannot be part of the public sphere. This was such a strong European construct. And as we know, theories in Europe started to develop theories of sociology, anthropology. And within the literature, the theories in sociology and anthropology, this ideology, it became an ideology, but under the disguise of a theory, and it was taken for granted. But as we walk more and more and moved away from this Eurocentric perspective, we discover that Europe is an exception in that sense. And here I make reference to the work of Grace Davy, this wonderful UK sociologist, who argues that secularization is essentially a European phenomenon. And it's eccentric rather than intrinsic to the modernization process per se. She removed the equation of modernity and secularization and argues that modernity, of course, can happen with religion. She was inspired by the work of Samuel Henschenstein on multiple modernities and how different modernities can work differently, including religions on earth. And this helped to shift the notion that the notion of secularism was mainly a European focus. Now, many theorists at the end of last century, beginning of this century, had this secularist perspective. Jürgen Habermas, this German philosopher, was a secularist, but then realized that after Solidarność, this Catholic movement in Poland that managed to regain power against the communists, the development of liberation theology, Catholic groups in Latin America, taking a side in the public sphere to fight for the poor against the government. The religious right in the United States, and of course the Islamic Revolution, that something was happening. Religion was coming back into the public sphere. And with 9/11, the notion of secularism completely changed. Now, I'm giving you the background, and I've got 5 minutes to focus on version and SDG. So, here I'm inspired by the work of Austin and Tourmaline, who conducted vast focus group with faith-based organizations involved in development. And they realized that the way they enter the dialogue with secular organization when it comes to SDG is based on a secular dialogue, which is what Habermas was arguing in this notion of post-secularism. For Habermas, the challenges of today is for religious groups to speak to each other in the public sphere, and religious groups to speak with secular groups as well. But what he argues is that the language that is used in the public sphere has to be the language of secular, because according to Habermas, this is a neutral language. That's his perspective. This is contested. Charles Taylor, for example, this Catholic philosopher, argues that it prevents the voice of religious people to be able to express themselves in the public sphere. So in the work by Austin and Tourmaline, they discover that NGOs are trained to speak the secular language in the public sphere when it comes to achieving the SDGs, and realize that the faith-based organization has some types of intermediaries between meeting the SDGs using the language of secular reasons, and they speak to local faith actors, people involved in church, mosques, temples, who are at the forefront of dealing with applying with the SDG with the people. And those faith-based organizations in terms of development are the one, not only that help to develop SDGs, but they're also the translators between the religious dialogue as practiced in the everyday life and the secular dialogue happening in the private sphere. Now, still to this day, according to the research, some secular groups will see some faith-based organization seen as a hindrance to development, because they perceive from secular groups as having a propensity to proselytize. And that's as an extension of the missionary spirit. Of course, there's been some comments about how this position is limited, that if the secular group are contesting this idea to proselytize, secular group are also trying to proselytize in a way that they promote the secular language. And they've done some research as well and see that the research groups can sometimes, and of course I'm not homogenizing the various groups, there can be some problematic views on gender equality, sexual and reproductive health, and religious tolerance. Now, from the other side, from faith-based organization, some are quite equipped in speaking the language, the secular language in the public sphere, and even work on that, because it prevents to engage sectarian debate. But some see this as a move that has not gone far enough. So they claim that the expertise on the ground has been instrumentalized by secular agencies to take advantage of them. And they do not want to include in their approach to human relationship with the divine. All the religious texts, all the approach to spirituality, to connection to the divine, are not discussed at all in the public sphere. And that has been a critique for many organizations. For conclusion, in the research that has been done for this presentation, it's quite clear that religion alone is not able to fulfill all of the SDGs. But what is clear is that these SDGs are not going to be fully achieved without religion either. There needs to be a debate happening. And in the research that has been done, while there's clear links between various theologies with SDGs, there are some points of contention. And some people have argued that it's more about culture than about religion. Now, there's still more work to do and more paths to take to meet the demands of the SDG by 2030. And one of the recommendations that's very strongly supported in the literature is that we can't ignore those issues. We can't ignore speaking the language of religion in the public sphere. And some people have been arguing that there's a challenge for the secular institutions to become more religious literate, not just leave the discussion about religion to a faith-based organization, but for the secular organization to be trained as well, to better understand those issues, so we can all work together towards achieving the goal of the SDG by 2030. Thank you so much. It's lovely to speak to you.
Thank you, Professor Adam Posame, for your remarkable presentations. I will give each speakers for 20 minutes of presentations, and it will be followed by question and answers at the end of speaker presentations. And we look forward to welcoming discussion by this Q&A. Thank you again, Professor Adam Posamai, who highlighted the interplay between religions and secular sustainable development. That wonderful points. Now I will let you to conclude, and I'll stick to our schedule. Now we welcome Dr. Melissa Curley from the University of Queensland, Australia. Please.
Good morning, everybody. It's my absolute pleasure to be here this morning and speak with you. And I would firstly just like to extend my gratitude for the kind welcome and thank the Vice Rector, Dr. Din Wahid, and also the Dean Koiba for inviting me. It's an honor to be here to visit your university. It's an absolute pleasure, and so I'm really pleased to be here today to speak to you all and to share the stage with such eminent scholars. So today I'm going to be speaking on the role of civil society in promoting sustainable development and inclusive development. And I think some of my comments, I hope, will resonate and in dialogue with Professor Adams' comments there, because many faith-based and religious groups are an important part of civil society. And so one of the, I guess, themes that I wanted to pick up today is one of the challenges facing many civil society groups around the world, and that is increasing control or limitations of what they can do in the political space. And so I guess one of the main highlights that I want to make is that in order for inclusive development and sustainable development, we ultimately, I think, want to encourage the space for civil society groups to be able to input to the development of sustainable development policies. So my presentation focuses on this role, the role of civil society in promoting sustainable development, particularly in Southeast Asia. And it questions how civil society groups work to promote their interests in democratic contexts. But of course, as many of you will know, there is growing concern around the world about a so-called democratic sliding or backsliding or growing authoritarian tendencies. So what I'm doing in this presentation is locating my work within developments in recent authoritarian governance literature. which raises the concerns about the control of civil society and how civil societies may be restricted in what they can engage with, both in Southeast Asia. I'm going to talk about some of the literature on Indonesia and present to you some of my research on Cambodia. So rather than the space for civil society shrinking in some states, I explore how the government, particularly in Cambodia, has over time reconfigured its relationship with civil society to both harness it, but also to control it. And I think ultimately this has political consequences. So what is the role of civil society in promoting inclusive development and sustainable development? As Professor Adam just outlined in his, I think, very stimulating talk, civil society groups form an important space for people to collaborate, to discuss, to form views about societal and developmental goals. And he spoke about the SDGs in particular. And they have, as he noted, long been implementing partners in the development projects on the ground. They create pathways for policy implementation and consultation and inputs to government and bureaucracies. And I think the diverse views and the diverse groups in civil society are key to encouraging an environment where we have different voices and different inputs to the policy space. So I think it's well established in the literature that vibrant civil societies are linked to democratic consolidation. But we know in more recent times that is not always the case, and that there is quite a rich literature on the concept of so-called uncivil society, and that is a theme of the literature. So there is a growing concern in my discipline in political science about the global authoritarian turn and the so-called democratic backsliding or autocratization. And these themes, I think, resonate a lot with some of the points that Professor Adam raised. So what I'm going to hopefully do is talk to you a little bit about my research in this field. It relates also to some work I do with the Asia Centre at University of Melbourne. There's a group there that has worked for some years on civil society in Asia. And more recently, we've published a book on civil society in authoritarian states, which raised some of these concerns. And I'm going to just briefly talk about some of the debates in Indonesia, which I have researched for this presentation, and I think which are very fascinating, and then talk a little bit about the Cambodian case. So as I said, I've been working with a group of scholars in the Asia Centre and University of Melbourne who have had a long interest in the role of civil society in Asia. And more recently, we came together and had a workshop on some of the challenges of civil society groups in Asia under increasing authoritarian conditions. So that can be a broad range of issues, including the way that legislation and laws might limit their involvement, also intimidation or other sort of forms of restricting their sort of activities. And so I had a chapter in this book that compared Cambodia and Myanmar, as Faisal outlined. And one of the themes in our paper was looking at the role of laws that can on the surface look probably quite good and have a role to play, but in practice, and the way in which they're interpreted in the judicial system can actually have a very limiting role to play on civil society. So my book that I'm working on Cambodia, we might ask, what does it have to offer? What lessons might be learned? What I'm trying to look at in my Cambodian research is the fact that, some 25, 30 years ago, Cambodia went through a democratization process. It had a very vibrant civil society many deep international connections with global donors. And what we see today, however, is very different. So I'm going to talk about that transition and sort of suggest to you that through looking at this transition, what we see is that the government has gradually transformed its relationship with civil society to control parts of it, and while remaining flexible enough to harness and keep partnerships with other parts of civil society. And so when I was listening to Professor Adams' talk, I thought to myself, I should think more about how that is taking place in the secular and religious space, because I think that would probably give my own research more depth. So I locate this work within a growing international literature on authoritarian governance. And this literature talks about how even though we have democracies around the world that have various levels of sort of authoritarian practice, if we like. And so work on Putin's Russia, certainly prior to the last few years, when Russia was an electoral state, highlights some of the ways in which governments, they need to engage with, and they need the civic participation of civil society, and yet they want to limit certain aspects of the political nature of what civil society might talk about. And likewise in Southeast Asia, Gary Rodin, a scholar, has looked at how, in his book on participation without democracy, talks about how in Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore, the trend has been for governments to increase avenues for civil society to engage with input, but at the same time bring in different sort of laws and other regulations that structure and limit that participation, therefore limiting the political scope of speech. And so both globally and within Southeast Asia, I think there are scholars that are concerned about understanding the implications of this. In my research for this presentation, I was very interested to look more at what are the debates in Indonesia and what are Indonesian scholars talking about in this area. And so what I found was that authors such as Meissner draw attention to growing authoritarian features in Indonesia's democratic landscape, citing growing polarization, socio-religious conservatism, and growing state repression of NGOs. And he talks about that as areas for concern. However, other scholars, notably Setuan and Tomsa, draw attention to the resilience, the resourcefulness, and the adaptability of Indonesian civil society coalitions and groups in using their interests in the face of narrowing space and dissent. They cite two examples of successful civil society coalitions recently in Indonesia in the areas of women's rights and environmental activism. And they argue that those examples show that there remain positive space for civil society to hold the government to account and influence policy in Indonesia. Specifically, they look at the successful passing of the 2022 law on sexual violence and the successful mobilization of the 4 Bali environmental movement as case studies to argue that civil society activities in Indonesia use a wide range of approaches to advocate for change. What is crucial in achieving success, however, is they identify as creating broad coalitions of diverse organizations, including faith-based organizations, which in turn are able to engage with and mobilize a wide audience to get their message across and influence policymakers. I was really interested to see that in other work, with the book up there called Civil Society Elites, there are other researchers, Astrid Noren-Nielsen, Amalinda Sabrini, and Anders Ulren, who are exploring the role of civil society elites comparing Cambodia and Indonesia. They are interested to look at how elites within civil society in positions of power move into the government or the bureaucracy and try to influence policy from within. And in their research, they're trying to look at what do they achieve? How can they influence policy from these positions? Or do they risk alienating their original kind of roots with civil society with it once they move into the government? And I think this is a fascinating new research agenda that I hope, we may be able to do further comparative research on. So in terms of the Cambodian experience, what did I find so far? And what I have found thus far is that over time, from having a very vibrant, very open civil society sort of space, maybe 15 to 10 years ago, what we've seen in Cambodia is an increasing control of both individual political expression, but also controlling collective political expression. And so significantly in 2015, they passed an NGO law, which had quite significant impacts on the regulation and the administration of NGOs. So this is something that I look at in my book. And what I'm trying to argue is not that civil society space has shrunk. It's not necessarily getting smaller, but the relationship with the state is transitioning, and it's transitioning because the government is being able to control certain areas of civil society speech where it is usually, criticizing the government, but in areas where it wants to work in partnership with civil society, international donors, and in partnership, then it embraces that. And so I think this is not really reflected in this nuance is not really reflected in the literature, where we often see a binary of civil society being co-opted by government or civil society being overly critical of the government. There's a lot more nuance in between. However, I think it's no surprise that as governments become more sensitive to criticism, one of the main ways that they reduce space for political activism is influencing or controlling the media and also civil society groups. So I think what I have found in my research is that governments have particularly, the government in Cambodia has particularly passed laws and regulations to constrain those areas. I'm applying, I won't dwell on this too much, but I'm applying the work of Gary Rodin, who I've mentioned, talked about, has done work in other parts of civil society in Southeast Asia to look at how this flexible engagement with civil society is being achieved. And I'm applying his framework by looking at control and co-optation in different sort of political spaces, if you like. So what I found too, and these are just some examples, is that we see different modes of interaction with the state. So where civil society and NGOs are broadly complementary with the state's agenda and fit in with the government goals, then partnership continues and evolves, and policy influence can be achieved there. Particularly, that's also the case with international NGOs and CSO partners, where their mutual policy goals align. For example, in advancing the national agenda against violence against women. This is a goal of NGOs, it's a goal of international aid partners, and it's broadly in line with government agendas. However, when we see areas where there might be human rights-based claims, criticisms of corruption, or clashes with state interests, for example, with land grabbing, illegal logging, then these organisations are much more open to sanction, to intimidation, and are often exposed to criminalisation. Great, thank you. So what I'm trying to do is show the differentiation of these complex relationships with civil society. And so I won't go into these in detail, but what we have seen is the passing of a range of new legislative options, if you like, through telecommunications law, through social media laws or fracas. Also the introduction of lèse majesté legislation. So those of you who are familiar with Thai politics will know that in Thailand, the lèse majesté legislation is a very powerful law that prevents speech against criticism of the monarchy. And so in and of themselves, I'm not saying these laws may not be necessary in some cases, but what we need to do is dig down and see how the law is used in practice, what kind of prosecutions go ahead and how they work in practice. What other scholars as well have found is that through this legislative change, there's an increasing ability for the government by particular influence over the judiciary to increase online surveillance, harass and intimidate, blocking online content that they don't, that they feel is anti-state or doesn't fit with the narrative, and also the use of disinformation. So I think what this shows to us, well, this is just one thing I've also done in my book is done an analysis of the impact of the 2015 law on NGOs. And so I do believe, you know, all governments need to be able to control and understand the activities of civil society in any state. But I guess what I'm looking at here is, again, the implementation of that law and what effects it has on civil society. And one of the impacts in Cambodia has been that the law as it's written is quite vague. It talks about cultural cohesion and stability. It talks about civil society needing to be neutral, which is kind of challenging when, you know, many groups want to advocate for a policy which is inherently political. So you, in short, you can come under, you could potentially be in breach of the law depending on the way that these clauses are interpreted. So I want to get to my conclusion, but one of the other things that I have found is that in addition to those kind of new laws which can be interpreted widely, the government has also created new mechanisms for participation with civil society, which is not bad in and of itself, but it's often the one setting the agenda. And it's hard for civil society groups to set the agenda or to find out about, you know, when they put their policies forward or their input forward, they don't often hear back. They don't often hear what the deliberation is. So the dialogue is often one way. So in conclusion, I guess what I'm hoping to do in my research on Cambodia is to show that the legislative environment can be extremely powerful to limit the speech of NGOs over time or their activities. But at the same time, I think civil society groups in our diverse societies, we ideally want to create a space where they can to deliberate freely in a peaceful way and to be able to provide policy input to the government. And I think that is one thing that can improve the policy sort of policy debates. And I think ultimately, to finish on connecting with Professor Adams' note, is, you know, speaking about how civil society can collectively improve the work of SDGs and development in general. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Melissa Curley. She highlighted the role of civil society in promoting sustainable and inclusions of development. So thank you again. Now we turn to our third speaker. Before that, I will, I will, I will, I will highlight short reminders. Please be, please join, please, you might, uh, you might have food, drinks, but please not making any sound. Yeah. So enjoy your meal. Now, please, Professor Ida Widya Ningsih, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon. I think this is very close to the meantime. We have heard very interesting presentation about the topic from different perspectives. So also would like to present something that actually very close to my area. So I will look at the role of collaboration in advancing inclusive sustainable development policy in policy and governance perspective. So, okay. It can really work. Sorry. Please. Wait a second. So I have to find which way. Sorry. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Well, so overall, I will talk about, I will structure my talk from the introduction and then why actually we're talking about this one, and then talk specifically about policy and governance aspect. And actually, I also would like to share about my research and practice at my department, at my faculty, on how actually we try to interpret the collaboration model, and hopefully it can inspire some of us that actually working as an academic. Well, actually, we all talk about the global challenge. I think none of us have a very good immune on very problematic development issues. So I would like to cite the report from the United Nations that saying that actually we all agree that the agenda for SDG is actually one of them is actually leave no one behind. But what actually happening in the late 2019 actually the inhaled actually the premise is in peril. The sustainable development goals are disappearing in the review mirror, and we really have in trouble, and we need to do something to deal with these issues. So the ideas of sustainable and inclusive development has become a critical goal for government, organizations, and societies worldwide due to a multitude of reasons that encompass economic, social, environmental, and ethical consideration. So it is very good to listen to the previous speakers that highlight different perspectives from religious-based institution, faith-based organization, as well as from the secular NGO. So what is actually happening? So from the report, we could see that to what extent actually the SDGs agenda progressing. So if we look at the data, we are actually not really fine. We are in trouble. So most of the data are actually a little bit slowed down, especially when we are talking about in terms of region. We could see the gap of the data from developed and developing countries actually bigger. And let's have a look at Indonesian context. What is actually happening in Indonesia? So in terms of economic condition and government expenditure, we could see that the spending of Indonesian government actually shifting and has a specific focus on health, social protection, food security, and subsidies in 2020. So the funding increased by 11%, 0.71.2%, 24%, 1.8, and 2.3% respectively. So this is actually related to global phenomenon. This is related to the response of the government to try to address the COVID pandemic. So we could see the picture why the government tried to focus on certain issues. So central government also tried to focus on health, social protection, food security, and other subsidies. So it is clear that the patterns and of the funding actually shifting. Okay, so let's see how actually the roles of the policies and governance to advance inclusive and sustainable development. So I believe that actually policy and governance may support and enable the objective to advance inclusive and sustainable development agendas. Policymakers and government institutions playing a vital role in building and strengthening cooperative partnership. So, and this is also noted by the United Nations that actually there are at least 5 key areas for urgent action. So that it is important for the state of the government to recommit and accelerate the SDGs agenda. The government also should enhance and concrete, integrate all the targeted policy and action. The government should strengthen institutional and subnational capacity, and also the international community also should build the commitment and recommit to the SDGs agenda. And the last, the member of the state also have to facilitate and continue strengthen all of the United Nations target. So I would share a more practical argument for the collaboration and to promote sustainable and equitable development. So the need for efficient governance system and collaboration to promote sustainable and equitable development actually related to how the government could build a more efficient governance system to achieve those objectives. And of course, collaboration definitely play a vital role in promoting sustainable and equitable development. And I would love to share our experience working within that area. So we try to respond Indonesian government policy. We try to build a new collaborative model integrating with our activities in university, because we believe that the work of achieving development goals couldn't be left alone to certain actors, but university definitely need to play an active role. And we discussed this in the morning, Ibu Dekan. I appreciate her leadership and how she tried to reach out the government to discuss and to achieve better and more quality, and how to support local government to address development problems at local level. So what we did at our faculty, actually we tried to redefine our approach in teaching. So because as an academic in Indonesia, even though you are working as a manager, as a dean, as a vice rector, you still have to go to the class, right? You still have to do your research. You still have to do your community work. So this is why this model we try to design a model that they are using a transformative research approach and also strengthening our international collaboration. We believe this can enhance the role of education in addressing complex development challenges. I think every one of us in Indonesia very familiar with this picture. Suddenly, somehow around 2 years ago, 3 years ago, our new minister interested in introducing a very significant policy that actually changing the landscape of higher education. So there is a new higher education policy in Indonesia that actually try to encourage the academic, including students, lecturers, and researchers, to work more direct and also giving more impact. So the pressures against academics are actually getting higher because we want the students also exposed to the reality, not only having a discussion on the table and have such kind of debate. So somehow we could say this is kind of a breakthrough toward the approach of education management. However, it is not an easy task because I have discussed with so many leaders from different universities. So they are actually struggling to try to make an interpretation of this new direction of the policy and try to build a new model of approach of the teaching. So what did we do? What did we do at Universitas Padjadjaran? We try to introduce the model. We try to analyze the direction of our policy in Padjadjaran University. So as one of the oldest university in Indonesia, actually we are lucky enough. We had a very good, well-known and founding fathers of our university. So we try to establish the focus and had a very good vision on development that actually in line with the SDGs agenda. So Universitas Padjadjaran actually discussed specifically about challenge of SDGs implementation in national and regional perspective and try to immerse the agenda to boost the principle of scientific value of Universitas Padjadjaran. So how actually we specifically use the policy and how we interpret that? So we think that transformative research and co-creating model are suitable to address the recent development problem. So we think that the world need transformational change to be able to reach the aspiration expressed in the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. So we think transformational change is one that reshape models, policy, structure, practice, culture, and management. So this is actually one of the basic of our model, that because as an academic in Indonesia, you are born to government target, you're born to government technique of measurement indicators. So Universitas Padjadjaran try to combine the research, education, and community practice at once and integrate it into teaching model. So we are, as a university, of course, we are hoping that we could have competence graduates in terms of attitude, knowledge, and skill, as well as having general and specific skill. So for this, Universitas Padjadjaran try to integrate the policy that try to integrate this thing, and at the same time, we are not only focusing on research, outcome, but we also want to give more impact into the community and supporting government policy. So this is the model we built. So we are using the transformative research approach and the advancement of international collaboration to create a more impactful learning model. So we are working with our colleagues from Waseda University, Japan. So we designed a course program called Social Design. This is a research-based teaching model to answer the real development issues in urban and rural area. For this, we are not working alone. We believe that collaboration is important. This is why we are working with national development actors from the coordinating Ministry of Investment, Maritime and Investment. We are also working with local government, with Java government and sub-national government. So our students, we set up a new project, and the students from Waseda University and for our university, we have short research and we share our ideas online. So we called our project Social Design because students in Tokyo, they are working on what actually they are having, what kind of social problems happening in Tokyo, and Indonesian student working on the problem in Indonesia. So until now, we are now in the stage 4. So this is quite good because since that time, we could keep the model and improving the design. We are still working with the government, and the good thing is because of this program, we also could achieve another target from the government. So as we knew, as the university, we have 8 different performance measurement indicators, and this program actually could achieve at least 7 out of it. So I think this is good to create a model that actually, we just work once, but we could achieve so many different indicators. So it is good for us. So this year, our university, including me and also other staff, we got bonus from the Ministry of Higher Education. So I think that's good. And also the department also got successfully applied for a grant. So we got a grant from Ministry of National Education to fund this project. So, and that 1 billion last year, and this year, we also got to the last stage, and hopefully we will get another 2 billion because of this program. So I think that why I share this one, because sometimes we as an academic, we are too stressed. There's so many burdens. We have to do this, this, and that. And then this is why we have to try to design a breakthrough approach. And we prove that we could do that. It is not an easy one, but collaboration is a key. And it is important for us to work together and to keep our network, not only at national level, but also local level, including local community and also civil society organization. So this is the very quick one about our program. Because the students, at least 100 students involved in the program, and only kind of 9 students from Japan. So we are working to design a program that actually not only benefiting the community, but also upskilling and giving students experience. And also, we also produce policy documents for central and local government. We also got support from central government in terms of doing the field work. So the social design, yeah, okay, I will try to make it quick. Program keeps evolving, and I think we got some appreciation because it is also encouraging the student to have international exposures. We send students to Tokyo, and we also receive some students from Tokyo, so student mobilization and also lectures mobilization. So we got researchers, and also we have some good publication which will be released very soon. So we publish a book written by all of the students from Indonesia and from Waseda University, and also some lectures, and will be published in 3 different languages: Indonesian language, Japanese language, and also in English. So I think we think that this program quite inspiring, because this student learn from the reality that development problem actually exists, and you couldn't stay away from that, but instead you could do something good about it, including giving an idea how to think about our future. So we think that bringing the reality on to campus life is good. So we try to focus on how we could address inequality issues in West Java province, because even though it is a general knowledge that West Java considered as one of the most advanced region in Indonesia, but West Java also have problem in terms of inequality and marginalization issues. So West Java, if you look at the data, the northern part actually much more better and richer area, but it doesn't happen to the southern part of West Java. So we also try to reach our partner at national level. We try to know what actually the role of the government, and we found out there is the presidential regulation to address these issues under the coordinating ministry of maritime and investment. So this is why we are working with that ministry to get involved in shaping and make sure that the policy actually in place. So in this regulation, focus on infrastructure development and also some other issues. So for our student, of course, we couldn't do everything. We tried to focus on specific case study. In this case, a student working on conservation village in Kuningan. And we also believe that from our practice, we think that the university could step up and could have a very strategic role in addressing complex development challenge, and university could play a critical role in making collaboration happens. So this is the model we developed at our university that we've been working with our partners since 2 years ago, and it still keep going, and we are hoping we really can give real contribution and real impact to the community, to local government, and also to other development partners. So let me conclude that we think that taking part in sustainable development to promote fairness in society, preservation of the environment, stability in the economy, and ability to tackle global challenges and moral responsibility is very important. We also think that there are several aspects such as interpersonal relationship, technology, inclusivity, governance, capacity development, and community engagement and policy backing could enhance the collaboration. So, and it is imperative to give priority to resolve challenges such as efficiency in handling conflicting stakeholder interests, removing institutional barriers, and promoting equitable and impartial procedure. We also think that organization can facilitate positive change by engaging stakeholders, fostering collaboration to generate knowledge, improving skill, addressing ethical concern, and implementing transformative learning methods. So collaborative models actually believe could offer numerous benefits for inclusive development and sustainable practice, including the sharing of information, promoting innovation, and optimizing resources utilization and improving outcome. I think that I hope you can have something from what I discussed. Thank you very much. But really, we really have to act now because if not, as Antonio Guterres said, agenda will become an epitaph for a world that might happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ida Widyaningsih. You highlighted remarkable and share your views on yes, we can roll, meaning that you gave a success story about national and international collaboration from university perspective. So the dean, I saw she noted when we can meet further for this implementation as well with our faculty. So now we turn to Professor Ilim Halimatus Saadia. Please welcome.
Before I start my presentation, I think I would like to a little bit respond to Adam's and Melissa's presentations on the roles of faith-based organizations and civil society in the context of sustainable development. So I want to a little bit like advertise the project that Center for Study Islam and Society are doing right now. So we're almost finishing our research project on the issues of religion and environmentalism. So it consists of a national survey on 3,500 Indonesian, and also we conduct a qualitative study on various faith-based organizations concerned on the issues of environment. So once we launch the result project, we are very happy to invite you to come and discuss with the finding of our research. But now I would like to talk slightly different, but still in the issues of the sustainable development. So this is kind of preliminary findings of my ongoing research on the issues of sustainable development. What are the drivers of Indonesian transition readiness? Okay, so I would like to start my presentation with the background or introduction why I do interested in these issues. The first is we can see that energy sector is a key in addressing the issues of climate change, because it's expected to limit global warming and also reducing global greenhouse gas emission. And globally, as you can see from the map here, that the country have stated their energy transition commitment all around the world. And in terms of the literature on the studies of energy transition, there have been many studies being conducted on this issue. Some of the studies focus more on the socio-technical aspect of the transitions, some concern on the issues of path dependency from the existing system, or environmental reform and the governance on the issues of energy transitions, and also shift in terms of the user or consumer behavior in terms of an energy transition, and also some political economy scholarship on the issues of energy transition. And also some studies or many studies, I want to highlight the gap why I would like to put my research in around this literature. So most of the study on energy transition mainly focus more on the context of the West, especially like European, for example, European country in which they have like, they are the leading countries among other countries in terms of energy transitions, and also focus on other countries with scarce fossil fuel supplies. And also some other studies also focus beyond the West, but they focus more on the countries with developmental state orientation, like studies from Turban, Kim, Yan, and other colleagues on the issues of energy transitions in East Asia, such as South Korea, China, Taiwan, and other East Asian countries that consider have a trajectory or historical context of development states. And also, most of the study on this issue focus more on the national level. So it's most focused on cross-national studies rather than local level. So considering this gap, I would like to looking at how the energy transition in Indonesia. So Indonesia has also stated its energy transition goal, and Indonesia already submitted enhanced NDC or national determined contribution that expect to have a 31.9% unconditional and 43.2% conditional by 2030 for the reduction of emission. And you could see from the graph here, from the publication from Reso Sudarmo and his colleague, that energy is the second largest aspect that Indonesia expect to reduce. I mean, emission from energy sector that Indonesia expect to reduce. So based on this, I would like to know how far Indonesia as a country with abundant supply of fossil fuel pursued developmental environmentalism for its energy transition. And the second question I want to address also is what are the drivers of Indonesian energy transition readiness? So to answer this question, I use the framework from Turban and her colleague. So they study the issues of the success of East Asian countries, especially they compare between China and South Korea, why they become successful in transforming their energy into more green and sustainable sources. So they argue or they use the framework of developmental environmentalism, in which they see that this kind of approach or framework consider elite orientation and ambition to intervene of development and environmental consideration. So it's not only focused on economic, but at the same time, they also consider the environmental aspects of economic development in their countries. And also this framework consider that developmental environmentalist state behave less like top-down commander. So it's not like authoritarianism. Like previously in Melissa's presentation, she mentioned about the role of civil society in authoritarianism. So the study also tried to address the issue whether China is successful in transforming their energy because of the China is authoritarian. But how about South Korea? They are democratic. So it's not about the authoritarian, but they say it's because the country has developmental environmentalism framework in approaching their economic and environmental goals. And also from the developmental environmental perspective, state market developmental environmental states will have the ability to have collaboration or symbiosis mutualism relationship with market, with the private sector to drive up clean energy, to drive down clean energy prices, and also to drive policymakers to make ambitious action toward more clean and green energy transitions. And also the last one, the main argument of this perspective is that in developmental environmentalism, the state has the ability to expedite both creative and destructive aspects. The creative mean here extending the techno-industrial activism for the creations of new green energy sources, and destruction mean they try to phasing out the older fossil or reduce the use of fossil fuel sources. Okay, and this is one of the finding, and my argument and the finding is the first. I find that Indonesia, or this is also to answer my first questions, that Indonesia has not embraced developmental environmentalism. Why? Because the first one, like one of the indicator that Turban and her colleague mentioned in her book, their book, that political leadership is very important to address the developmental environmentalism. And in context of Indonesia, I see that we still have a lack of political leadership orientations in aligning between economic and environmental motivation of the state developmental goals. Right now, we know that our president has a very big ambition to have a nickel downstreaming, right? Hilirisasi. But is it driven more by the environmental goals or only in the economy? What we can see is more like economic rather than the environment. Like he and all the state bureaucrats all mentioned that hilirisasi nickel adalah untuk to supply electric car battery. But in fact, a study found that only 4% of the nickel industry in Indonesia is supplied for electric car. The rest, 96%, is to produce stainless steel. So yeah, it's more economic rather than environment. That's one of example why I argue that the lack of political leadership is still the issues in the context of energy transition in Indonesia. Although the second also, it's also supporting my first argument, is that the state and political elites still depend on fossil fuel mining corporation. We know a lot of oligarch and we have a lot of problem in the issues of mining and corporation, the license and corruption in the issue of mining. And we cannot deny that the dependencies of the state and political elites on this mining industry is still the problem that hinders the government or the state's ambition to pursue developmental environmentalism. And the third is, yeah, sure, Indonesia has already pursued various policies on the issues of energy transitions, but I could see some of inconsistent political commitment and policies. I will show a little bit the data later on to support this, my argument. So to support that argument, the first I would like to show you how what is the positions of Indonesia globally in terms of energy transition. And you could see here, maybe it's a bit smaller there, but Indonesia is on the left top with the, I try to put a circle there, red circle. It shows that Indonesia is among the country with potential challenges. Yes, Indonesia has potential ability to have a clean and a sustainable energy transition, but at the same time, data from Energy Transition Index from World Economic Forum stated that Indonesia still faces challenges. Why? I will explain later on. The next, in the context of Southeast Asia, Indonesia is the biggest country among Southeast Asian and among the other neighborhood country in the region. But the positions of Indonesian energy transition in Southeast Asia is the fourth. Nomor 4, the fourth after Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. In the perspective of Turban and her colleague in their book on developmental environmentalism, one of the rivalry of geopolitical rivalry can be a source of motivation or ambition for the state to pursue developmental environmentalism. Actually, with this condition, Indonesia should pursue development environmentalism. Yeah, as a big country, but look at, in terms of energy transition, Indonesia is only the fourth. But in fact, it doesn't happen. And in terms of the policy, as I said before, that Indonesia already have pursued various policy in the context of energy transition. It has been begun in 1981 with some, up and down journey. But I want to highlight maybe the last one. Indonesia has, as I said, Indonesia has a commitment to pursue energy transition. But like in 2013, Indonesia tried to draft the new and renewable bill, RUU, Rancangan Undang-Undang Energi Baru dan Terbarukan, something like that. But up to now, the law is still somewhere, haven't been discussed yet by the DPR, the legislative yet. I don't know why, but it seems that it's very difficult to ratify this law. And also in 2024, the Ministry of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources has just launched the regulation on rooftop solar power to enhance or encourage the use of PLTS, pembangkit listrik tenaga surya. Unfortunately, this regulation is also criticized by many that rather than give incentive or encourage public or private sector to use these alternative energy sources, it can like disincentivize them rather than encouraging them. So that's also why I said, yes, Indonesia already pursued this kind of a policy, but still some inconsistency happen in the practice. And the second, in the context, I also argue that or find that Indonesia is still unable to expedite the creative and disruptive aspect of the energy transition. Why? Because we could see still have a lack of technological and industrial innovation for energy transition. That's the first one. And the second reason is because, again, Indonesia is still highly dependent on fossil fuel energy sources. To support that argument, I would like to show you, this is also the data from World Economic Forum on the stand of Indonesia on energy transitions. And maybe I will skip this one. On the right graph, it's very small, but I would like to show you why the creative aspect of energy transition in Indonesia is very low, because compared to the system performance as a measurement of energy transition readiness, Indonesia is still have very low transition readiness. It's mainly driven by the lack of finance and investment or financing the transitions, and also the innovations. This is two main reasons, in addition to like political and regulation and political commitment on the issues of energy transitions. And also in the destructive aspect, once again, I want to show you, this is how Indonesian primary energy supply still relies heavily on fossil fuel sources. The black one is from coal, and the red one from crude oil, and the light blue from natural gases. So the main big energy supply in Indonesia still heavily rely on fossil fuel, while the proportion for a clean and sustainable energy supply is still very limited in the context of Indonesia. Now I would like to move on a little bit on the context of local level, as I also addressed in my introductions. Here I use the data from Celius on they calculate the clean energy initiatives by district, and the lighter means the less clean energy initiative, and the darker indicate the higher. And as you could see here, that the distributions of clean energy initiatives are still concentrated on the west part of Indonesia. Instead of mid and eastern part of Indonesia. And in terms of the readiness, it's quite similar with the clean energy transitions. By district, you could see that district located in the west part of Indonesia are more ready in terms of energy transition compared to east part of Indonesia. I think it makes sense because of our long historical context of development in the context of how authoritarian regime focus more on the western part of Indonesia, and it has impact on this new development on the context of energy transitions. And this is how I want to answer the second question: what drives the readiness of energy transition in Indonesia, whether it's economic development or government initiatives. So I ran OLS regression with several variables, and I find that here I want to highlight the local revenue as indicator for indicator for extractive capacity of the local state have negative association with the readiness and clean energy initiative. It indicates while the economic development has positive associations, and school enrollment in higher secondary senior high school also has positive association, while poverty rate has a negative association. So what is the main point that I want to highlight here, that instead of government initiative or government driven actions, the readiness of energy transition in Indonesia locally driven more by an economic development and mostly by public. Why by public? This is one of the example of how clean energy initiative, we can see the data for Indonesia rooftop solar panel in Indonesia, and most of the user of this solar panel are for housing, for public, and then also for commercial and social, while the government is only small proportions. So it confirms my regression that the driver for green or ready energy transition readiness is more on economic growth and public initiative and community, including what maybe Adam and Melissa mentioned, the role of civil society. Like in our study in PPIM, Center for Study Islamic Society, we're looking at how the initiative of religious-based organizations in addressing the issues of environment and energy transition as well. And to conclude my presentation, so I would like to highlight the first one, that energy transition has not been the main orientations and ambition of the state, as I explained before, and Indonesia has not yet embraced developmental environmentalism. And the second, energy transition readiness in Indonesia is mostly driven by economic aspect rather than which is dominated by public and private sector initiative, while the government orientation, which emphasizing their extractive capacity for high local revenue, particularly from mining sectors, hinders the energy transition in Indonesia. And the third one, the state should also pay serious attention to region with low level of energy transition readiness to minimize disparities between region, as I also already show you the map. And then the last one, state also should enhance its capacity to build symbiotic partnership or collaborations with the market and private sector to expedite the sustainable energy transitions. Okay, thank you so much. Let's conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor IM Halimatu Sa'adiyah. So she highlighted sustainable energy development. This is based on her recent and fascinating research on how Indonesia is ready for energy transitions. From fossil fuels to clean energy. And also this is as a reminder to us, all of us here, that we have to keep our electricity off if we don't need it, but not in this conference because we need our electricity. And keep your rubbish on the bins if you want to also keep our planet lively. So now we turn to Dr. Najib Azka. I would like committee to make sure that Dr. Najib Azka is connected to Zoom online. Are you listening to us?
Yes, hello everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Yes, please, Dr. Najib Azka from Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta.
Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present far away. I'm currently in Lisbon, in Portugal, for attending a CAICIT Global Dialogue here. So I cannot be present directly in person with you all in Ciputat. I would like to present my PowerPoint, my material. Can you see that, please? Hello, everyone. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see PowerPoint and your face as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mas Moderator. Yes, let me move.
Sorry, Professor Dr. Najib Askar, would you please enlarge your slides, please? Yeah, perfect.
Yes, like this. Okay, wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, obrigados. Thank you. I will present briefly about the role of religious-based civil society organization in promoting sustainable and inclusive development. Please let me introduce myself. I'm a senior lecturer in Department of Sociology and also senior researcher in the Center for Security and Peace Studies of Universitas Gadjah Mada. I will briefly present my abstract that this presentation discusses the role of religious-based civil society organization in Indonesia in promoting sustainable and inclusive development, focusing particularly on two major religious organizations, namely Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah. In contrast to some religious organizations who have the opposite tendency, these two religious social movements keenly advocate and promote sustainable and inclusive development in its contemporary period. This presentation will discuss how it has developed and transformed in the changing course of social and political history. So I'm a little bit approach this topic from the like historical sociology, kind of from the point of view of social history, how actually the changing role of religion and let's say ecology. We have dynamic from the very beginning of our establishment of this country, and then the early post-colonial period, and especially the new order, and in the post-new order of the Reformasi era. Okay, this is actually my outline kind of the presentation regarding the development religion and the SDGs. And then the development religion during the Suharto's new order. And the next one is actually regarding development and religion at the Reformasi or post-authoritarian period. And then the role of Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah in promoting sustainable and inclusive development, and concluding remark. I will start with the first one, which is actually like a first view of the how the issue of development religion have some strong connection, and especially related with how SDGs coming up into the stage, and that's shaping our narrative and discourses on this issue. And the first, and the post-colonial Indonesia, and the first early post-colonial era, actually, that Indonesia is the central unitary state with strong tendency of centralization. And also we are unitary in opposite of the federal state, which has become the strong narrative and discourse in the beginning. And the post-colonial Indonesia have a very strong narrative of the nation building. We can say that the early post-colonial Indonesia has been remarkable, especially because of it has been successful in building the nation, because of, we know all that actually Indonesia is very, very vast country, very wide country with a lot of diversity in terms of religion, ethnicity, also geographically, and so on and so on. But the fact that until today, Indonesia is still one, I think this is a very important evidence that actually the narrative of nation building is very strong and very successful here. And then in the Suharto's era, we know about the development of the developmentalism. Actually, this is actually how economic development became the central, very core of the new order Indonesia after long period of, let's say, political struggle in terms of local and central and core and the periphery of Indonesia, and also regarding high nation building have been maintained throughout the history of Indonesia. And the next one is actually I would like to say something about the instrumental role of religion under the developmentalism era. One of the important cases actually regarding the family planning program, which also interestingly actually involving the community of sociologists, where we are gathering here in Jakarta. Actually, during that period, actually the Ministry of Family Planning Program BKKBN is actually a sociologist, Professor Haryono Suyono, which was also the chairman of Ikatan Sosiologi Indonesia, the Association of Sociology of Indonesia. The next one is actually how the new narratives coming up, the rising idea of the sustainable and inclusive development. This is regarding the story and history of MDGs and SDGs. We know that it started with the Millennium Development Goals in 2000 until 2015, and then following up with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, starting from 2015 until 2030. And especially during this period, actually, that SDGs, actually, that the concept of sustainable development became the core of the idea of the concept of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, and this is actually on development and religion during the Suharto's New Order. Elaboration a little bit about the previous slide. The developmentalism era, I think this is very prominent during the New Order, during the Suharto, when economic development and economic growth became the mantra. So everything during that period, during the Suharto, developmentalism is actually how economic development, economic growth become the backbone of everything during that period. So that's why the reason behind, for example, the restriction of freedom of the particular expression of democracy Pancasila, it's called during the New Order, which is meaning actually a certain form of authoritarian rules. And one of the issue is actually, as I just mentioned before, that the instrumental of religious space, civil society organization during the developmentalism era. This is one of the prominent case actually how one of the important program during that period is actually family planning program, which actually very, for example, prominent with what its motto, dua anak cukup, that 2 children is enough. I mean, that which is it quite controversial in the beginning, with having some criticism from development religious leader and the religious organization, but in the course of the time, actually, that it's become more accepted following some engagement of religious leader and religious organization. But in this era, actually, the lack of issues of sustainable and inclusive development, in this era, especially among religious-based civil society organization. Okay, the next step on reformasi, on religion, how development and religion in the reformasi oppose authoritarian period. The reformasi era marked with the 2 major agendas, decentralization and democratization or liberalization. while it brought the idea of inclusion, especially in terms of regional aspect and mass politics. Yeah, I think one of the important of reformasi is the inclusion of participation, people participation in the governing process, in the political process. Yeah, with the freedom for association, freedom for establishing the new political party, for example, freedom for press, for media, and so on and so on. But it lacked the idea of sustainability. I think this is one of the minor on the reform era. The politics of extractive industry has been increasing in the reformasi period in decentralized context. Yeah. So desentralisasi mean also desentralisasi eksploitasi sumber daya alam, let's say. Yeah, in many areas actually how logging, also extractive industry and different kind of actually practice of unsustainable approach of development actually happening during the early period of reformasi. The rise of the idea of sustainability grows with the SDGs, starting from 2015, if mentioned before. And this is actually interesting concept and context where actually the idea of sustainable development actually become more and more adopted, become more and more developed among the civil, religious, civil society organization. This organization, religious-based civil society organization, including Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama, have adopted the central idea of sustainability. Sorry. Which is very compatible with the main tenets of religion. Yes, I would like to describe briefly here about how actually the role of Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah in promoting sustainable and inclusive development. Especially during the pretty recent period of leadership of Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama. I, as some college in Gajah Mada University, published a book in 2019 actually about the role of Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama in building peace and democracy, which is including some element of the sustainable approach and inclusive approach in its movement. In the context of Nahdlatul Ulama, for example, in during the last recent the current leadership under Kiai Yahya Khalil Stakuf, for example, it chose to use the text for its period of leadership in 5 years from 2022 until 2027, namely merawat jagat membangun peradaban, meaning conserve the nature and developing civilization. So Gus Yahya is among the NU leader who have strong vision of global engagement, and of course it includes world, earth, and environmental issues on this topic. So there are some example of how Nahdlatul Ulama communities actually articulating its engagement in the issue of sustainable development. For example, there is a book entitled Fikih SDGs, which is written by some ulama, by some religious scholar, especially from Nahdlatul Ulama, in how the importance of in supporting and promoting SDGs from the point of view of fikih. Fikih is the jurisprudence of Sharia, of Islamic teaching actually, where there are some element highlight in this book, namely the issue of sustainability, and also the issue of transgeneration justice. So we need to also consider regarding the next generation. We have to give justice for the next generation, kind of. So that is one of the important element of the SDGs. And then during the in 2022, actually, Nahdlatul Ulama initiated G20 Religious Forum, which is the first event of as a what is engagement event of G20 involving religious leader. And one of the theme during the meeting, which is participated by some hundred of religious leaders throughout the world from all faith and religion, actually. One of the theme is regarding the spiritual ecology. I will write here one of the text which we published actually in the book. It launched last year, published by Gajah Mada University Press, that the R20 summit in Bali, this is regarding the spiritual ecology, hosted and the launch of the R20 spiritual ecology movement, dedicated to the understanding and practice of spiritual ecology as opposed to a purely secular environmentalism. The spiritual ecology movement seek to re-enliven indigenous and ancient wisdom tradition, essentials to respecting and preserving the environment in a holistic manner that foster balance within nature and society. This is actually the introduction of the chapter of spiritual ecology, which is a keynote is actually given by Rabbi Professor Arthur Green in Bali at the time, saying actually that the contemporary religion need to be based upon an understanding that the biohistory of our planet is a great sacred story, one that we all share. This is Professor Arthur Green quote actually that it will be a fully natural embracing spirituality, one that sees the natural as the supernatural, the divine present embodied throughout the physical world. This can be hosted by a great variety of theological views within all of our tradition, but we, Westerners, he said, must move away from the legacy of Platonism, distinguishing between a true spiritual world and the merely physical. A creation-inflected spirituality means that we celebrate the divine presence within all of God's creature. However, we spell out the detail of that presence. A sense of spirituality is precisely that we bring us closer to an appreciation of nature and a sense of awe before its wonder. So that is actually a short from Professor Arthur Green. Next, regarding Muhammadiyah, actually Muhammadiyah is one of the largest organization, especially focusing on the giving education and school in many areas, including in underdeveloped areas, including in Christian majority areas. So one of the important development in Muhammadiyah in terms of inclusive approach is that there is a new category of Muhammadiyah, especially in Eastern Indonesia, namely Kristen Muhammadiyah, Krismu. Jadi they are Christiani, but also part of the Muhammadiyah, let's say, organization, because they are the student of Muhammadiyah school, which is strong in Eastern Indonesia. And there is also another strong movement within Muhammadiyah, namely what it's called jihad lingkungan, environmental jihad, which actually giving the highlight of the important issue of, oh my God. Okay, that in its first century, Muhammadiyah has been successfully in doing jihad for education, health, and social services. And thus, in its second century, Muhammadiyah, starting the second century already before NO, we must fight for environment. So I think this is an important example of how Muhammadiyah then declaring credo of jihad lingkungan as its very important agenda in its second century. Yeah, following up actually what it the success in education, in health, and other social services. And finally, on this slide, actually, I will describe a little bit about the very recent happening that Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama receive award from Zayed Award for Human Fraternity, because of the two biggest Islamic organization in Indonesia would consider exerting extraordinary effort to tackle complex social threats. Additionally, NU and Muhammadiyah have promoted international peace and grassroots solidarity. So, Zayed Award for Human Fraternity is a kind of peace Nobel from Asia or from the another part of the world, because of Zayed Award of Human Fraternity initiative by based on the document of Human Fraternity document actually declared by Pope of Vatican of Franciscus and also Grand Sheikh of Al-Azhar. So I think this short, let's say, explanation actually giving you a sense a little bit about how Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah actually play some role in promoting sustainable and inclusive development. I come to the last slide, concluding remark, actually that civil society organizations have played different roles in development program in the different period of social history, yeah, such as instrumental role during the developmentalism era of Suharto, to critical role in the neo-developmentalism or new developmentalism in this recent period. I think there is also some discussion regarding some organization within Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama also who strongly fighting for the environmental issues. And the two largest religious civil society organization in Indonesia and Muhammadiyah have been playing critical role in promoting sustainable and inclusive development in Indonesia, such as through fikih, SDGs, jihad lingkungan, and etc. However, there are many homework on the issues of sustainable and inclusive development for religious-based civil society organization, such as what happening quite recently, actually the issue of growing intolerance, the persecution to minorities, and also massive development of local and national extractive industries, which is become our main theme these days. I think that is what I want to say. Terima kasih. Thank you. Syukran Karim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Najib Azka, for sharing your views on development, religion, and SDGs, analyzing the role of NU and Muhammadiyah in promoting sustainable development. It seemed that you line up with Adam Posemai, while Adam spoke of the issue in more broad perspectives, in broad context, and then you bring it to Indonesian context, highlighting the significant roles of faith and mass-based organizations, NU and Muhammadiyah. Now, are you ready? Ready, okay. Now we turn to question and answers. And I would like to invite you to raise your questions, your comments, whatever you want, except okay. not explain in long. First, please introduce your name, organization you based on, and to who on what speakers your questions to be addressed to, not addressing me to me, yeah? I am moderator. And for the committee, please make sure to share microphone to the to those who raise question. Okay, I will open it to you. Okay, you first, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator. Firstly, I would like to introduce. My name is Dr. Ahmad Zubair. I am from Universitas Plasma Surakarta. Thank you very much for the time. I would like to ask Professor Widya Ningsih.
Sorry. Okay,
Professor Widya. In the term of collaboration, I would like to ask, what are the strategies to create the collaboration and especially in international programs? Because I think it is very important for us to prolong or to advance the international collaboration program. And a question to Professor Halimatus Syahdia. In the context of sustainable energy, I would
sorry,
like to ask
Zubair. The first question you addressed to
Prof. Ida.
Prof. Ida. And the second question?
Prof. Syahdia. Halimatus Syahdia. Yeah. In the context of sustainable development, it is very important in relation with global warming and also energy sustainable. And in the term of energy sustainable, I would like to ask, what is the meaning of the energy sustainable? If you think about the international area, for example, West or East country, and especially in the context of Indonesia, because Indonesia there are Java, East Java, West Java, and also out of Java. And what type of energy transition? I think you can explain. And the last question is for Dr. Najib. What are the role of religious organization in promoting sustainable development? Is there any relation with happiness or economic development or etc.? I would like you to explain more detail because I think it is very important for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Zubair from Surakarta, right? Okay, Solo. Yeah. Okay. Now, anyone? Okay, from female, Ibu Din. Okay, so okay, okay, you third. This one, the fourth, the fifth. Okay.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Sri from Lambung Mangkurat University Sociology Department. Prof. Adam, Dr. Melissa, Prof. Ida, Prof. Iin, and Dr. Najib. First, I would like to share you the reality context of what is going on in South Kalimantan. Yeah. Two comments I would like to share the reality first. How the oligarchy of batubara, fuel, fossil fuel, very strong, trying to shape the social memory, the memory trying to frame the memory of the community that they can do lots of things. They can change the social thinking of the people. And the second, food estate. Food estate lagi heboh di Kalimantan. Kita tahu bersama ya. Maybe this is dari UPR nih, Universitas Palangkaraya. So the space of the local NGOs in South Kalimantan very limited. Jadi space kita tuh sangat terbatas. How the oligarchy frame disturb our movement, Itu dokter yang terjadi di Kalimantan Selatan saat ini. Apalagi pilkada, ini mau ada nih pilkada. They say it's not like they say in the media. Jadi pertanyaannya begini, how do we should start? But all the things, banyak hal yang positif, Prof. Ya, Prof. Ida, Prof. Imi, Prof. Adam, Dr. Hal positif, misalnya gerakan sampah masjid, ya, water recycle masjid, ya, and then river, itu they use, we mobilize of the rally of the faith organization, local organization. But the oligarchy.
Ibu Sri, I'm sorry. Would you please briefly your questions and to who?
Anybody.
Anybody.
Like your comment
Okay.
about
This is about
Thank you,
the,
Moderator.
okay. So
Hanya kasih tahu
are you
konteks.
concerned on coal in South Kalimantan?
Iya, sangat
Okay, then
sangat
Bu Iim
mengganggu gerakan
with
itu.
energy.
Makasih.
Iim that she concerned about coal, yeah, coal oligarch.
No,
No.
fuel coal mining.
Coal mining.
Fuel kind.
Karena mereka sudah pasang orang-orang di kementerian loh. Saya tahu, jadi mereka memframe masyarakat Banjarmasin semua itu bagaimana konsep sosial itu kita yang membangun kotamu, uang dari kami. Mereka
Okay,
bilang
then
begitu.
your brief questions, how the governments solve the issue of,
No, how the local NGO
Oh.
use the limited space for their voice. Itu konteks yang terjadi sekarang, Prof. Terima kasih,
Okay.
moderator.
Thank you very much. So local NGOs can be heard, something like this, yeah? Okay, perfecto. And the third one, sorry, yeah, okay, please. Could you share committee? Yeah, okay.
Thank you, moderator, for this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Your Excellency, all speakers of International Conference on Social and Political Sciences. Allow me to introduce myself. My name Willy Ashadi. I am a lecturer at Universitas Islam Indonesia Yogyakarta in Department of International Relations, and also I'm as a student of PhD level at International Islamic University of Malaysia. I want to address my question to Professor Iim Halimatus Sa'diyah. As we know together, we have new president in Indonesia. My simple question is, Professor Iim Halimatus Sa'diyah, about energy transition, how Indonesia policy on energy transition under President Prabowo, your prediction? Is the same with President Joko Widodo or not? Last but not least, there is greeting and salam from my mine supervisor. Her name is Dr. Saza from International Islamic University of Indonesia of Malaysia. She said salam especially for Professor Iim Halimatus Sa'diyah. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, shukran kathira. And Iim, I think I don't know, did she support Prabowo or not, but we will hear. The fourth, okay, yeah, and you the fifth, okay, perfect. Please introduce your name and to who you would like to address your questions.
Tes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
I want to say thank you for Mr. Faisal to give me an opportunity. Okay, my name is Muhammad Wildan. I am an international relations student at UIN Jakarta. So my question is for Professor Adam. Good afternoon, Prof. So from the article, religion and post-secular SDGs that the professor made, professor said that religion is becoming back as a recognized actor in the public sphere. The article also said there are some conflicts between religion and SDGs points, especially in the fifth point about gender equality. Although the professor has given a solution, however, saying that religion is becoming more powerful as an actor and saying that countries are trying to fulfill the SDGs. Will this be a potential conflict that is getting bigger in the future? So yeah, the question is,
Well done. Thanks. Would you please repeat your questions slowly?
okay. Saying that religion is becoming more powerful as an actor and saying that countries are trying to fulfill the SDGs, will this be a potential conflict that is getting bigger in the future?
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Adam? Fine, okay. Thank you very much, well done. So you will, okay, we will have fifth one, and then we keep speakers to answers and to response, and then we will see the valuability of our time. Yes, the fifth.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. I would like to say thank you to the presenters and the participants. I am Nazrin Azuriani from Udayana University in Bali. I would like to address my questions to Professor Adam. Usually we are quiet with this azan. Related to the sociology of Sharia and heathenism in Indonesia especially, can you elaborate more the situation that presently hit Muslim refugees? Let me say, because you are also part of the Paris Forum, the laïcité, the plural and secular world of French, they open up the refugees to come over, but the tension come up. My question to you is, how about the Gaza people? How can we see the situation is baik saja? The situation is okay for the Muslim refugees, while we see that SDGs is no longer in the people mind. So would you like to see whether there will be a war of religion in the future or whatsoever with the Zionist and Israel expansion? I would like to ask Professor Melissa to see the Cambodian case. Do you think that the crisis of the public speech in Indonesia is comparable to the Cambodian? Thank you. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So I will let speakers first. The first question. Yeah. Okay. So I will. This is like the clock. So Adam first, Melissa, Iim, Ibu Ida, and the last Pak Najib. Okay. Yeah. Please. Ilbu, please.
Thank you. And I will answer those two last questions and combine them. If it comes to Habermas' notion of communicative action, and as I mentioned in my talk, Habermas spoke about post-secularism. That is a sphere in which we are all involved and groups are able to speak in the public and to speak to each other, and religious groups are also able to speak to secular groups. And the challenge for Habermas is to have all those groups to be able to speak to each other, including between religious groups. And is ideal, of course, it's an ideal, it's in the world of theory, everything's always fine in the world of theory. Habermas speaks about communicative action. He proposed the idea that by using the language of reason, secular reason, all the groups are able to speak to each other. Of course, it puts the debate in a position of a higher position for secular debate, because it's a language of secularism that some religious groups might not be able to speak the same way. Although there's lots of work from NGOs, as I mentioned, who are able to come into the public sphere to speak about the issues that local faith actors are facing and able to translate. By community of action, he makes reference, I want to a language of neutrality in which people are able to come and speak about the different issues at hand. And he preconized that people come into debate and be able to speak about their issues. And he thinks that's more important for people to be able to come into the public sphere to speak about this issue rather than to have a silence. And that public sphere where he preconizes community of action, people should be able to speak to each other. Now, myself, in my work as a sociologist, I do work on freedom of religion, the idea that all religions should be able to express themselves, but also freedom from religion, trying to combine different perspectives. As to the future, we are here as social scientists, trying to understand, providing feedback. This is not just about SDG, which we are working quite extensively on, but it's also being witnesses of what's happening and be able to come ourselves as academics in the public sphere and provide feedback to influence politicians, journalists, other academics, and religious groups as well. But thanks for your questions.
Thank you very much for the questions and the comments. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for your commentary. It's very interesting, and I don't know much about that situation, but in listening to your comments, I think it shows increasingly the value of collaboration and comparative research, because understanding the way in which in communities and civil societies how the space for speech may be constrained or opened is different, and we have to, I think, through comparative research in that situation or case study you mentioned could be, I think, very valuable. And it shows, it sounded like the example was not one of a legal nature, it's more about power relations at the local level. So I think that's something that we can think further about in maybe research collaboration. And thank you very much for your question. I think the situation in Cambodia is far worse. I don't, as I said, I'm not an expert on Indonesia, but the main, I think, defining feature there is the rule of law moving to the rule by law, where the executive's capture of the judiciary means that laws can be interpreted very broadly. And Professor Adam talked there about, the ideal where all kinds of groups, faith-based groups, other civil society organizations can speak to each other in a space. When you have a situation where that space, where speech via law can be interpreted very broadly and criminalized, you have a very powerful avenue to constrain that space. And I think that's what's happened in Cambodia. And that's it's a very heavy sanction and a high penalty for some people pay the price of going to being charged with defamation or incitement under the criminal code for, largely political commentary. And that's a situation I think, we would want to avoid. Yeah. So I don't think I'll comment on the Indonesian situation, but that's something I think the rule by law is something that is a very negative development in Cambodia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think the first, if I'm not get wrong with the first question is asking about the distributions of how energy transition readiness among region in Indonesia. And I think as I also showed in my slide before, there is disparities between region and west part of Indonesia due to, as we know, that historical development differences between west and east part of Indonesia. So in terms of energy transition as well, the region in the west part of Indonesia, Java, some part of Sumatra is more ready for the transition of energy rather than the mid part and east part, even though some part of the Kalimantan, maybe because of the development of IKN right now, and they pursue for more sustainable cities, they have a quite a medium and almost high level of readiness for energy transitions. If it's continue in the future, if we want to be optimistic, we expect that the distribution will be equal, especially again, if the government and the state try to focus more their attention to those regions that are still in below or low level of energy transition readiness. That's the first questions. And the second question is very interesting about Prabowo. Unfortunately, I'm not the paranormal, but if the state under the leadership of Prabowo is still pursuing more economic gain rather than environmental objective, if they could not balance or have a very strong ambition and balancing between economic goals in line with also the economic environmental goals, I think the situation in Indonesia could be the same or could be worse. And if the state under the new presidency, they focus more on the fossil fuel energy supply in the future, still prioritize non-clean or non-green energy sources, so the situation will be the same or even worse. It's only a prediction, but I expect that the new leadership, I hope the new leadership with the strong leadership who have a strong ambition for, as I said, balancing or pursuing developmental environmentalism in the context of energy transition will bring a better energy transition for Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Im. We hope Prabowo don't disappoint Prof. Im. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think it's my turn. Thank you very much for all good questions. I think I would address one question from Pak Suhail, from Solo, Surakarta. You are asking about the strategy for collaboration. We do agree that pressures for us as an academia are getting higher and higher, especially the expectations to build our international research network, including publication, also students and staff mobilization. So I think that recently, according to my experience at my university, we think that leadership factors is very important because when we're talking about collaboration, we have to make sure that it is actually supported systemically. So the policies should be in place, and also about the management. So I think I'm lucky enough. I'm working for a quite big university with existing international collaboration. But in practice, there are so many different ways to build a collaboration. My experience, for example, I started to collaborate with my alma mater in Australia. So I'm lucky enough I got the scholarship to Australia. So thank you, AusAid and other Australia University. So as an alumni, of course, I have an existing at least personal communication with my alma mater, my lecturers, and my other colleagues. So I started with that. So I tried to reach them. So the communication is very important. So if I believe your university also have some staff that actually studying abroad, so they are actually asset. You just need to talk and try to engage. But you also don't need to worry if you don't have anyone graduated from abroad university. This kind of event international event is quite good strategy. So yeah, so thank you very much for UIN to arrange this kind of activities, because this is the place for us to share, to connect, and to create collaboration. So I mean, I studied my undergrad in Universitas Pajajaran, but I able to continue my degree overseas. So actually, the forum like this helping me to reach international lectures. So so we can use that. And now in my position as Vice Dean for International Cooperation, actually I also use the policy I integrate the policy for collaboration. For example, whoever will do the international conference or doing some visit internationally, one of the requirement is they have to market our programs, our research, our publication. So everyone, every single lectures or student, they will have kind of pre-departure briefing from my faculty, and they will be given such kind of template or flyer, and they have to represent our university. So that's actually very good strategy, because no one actually will notify you if you don't tell anyone. So I think that's a very good one. And another one is alumni engagement program. And the other important thing is through publication. So if you are publishing in a very good, high reputable journal, trust me, good university, good expert will read your papers. And I think I got some time, some expert in certain area use our paper as recommended reading, on the list of reading. And once, according to my experience, for example, I got invited by United Nations and some institutions, including National University of Singapore, because of my publication. So do good research and try to share your idea in a good, reputable journal. So, and we know there's no shortcut for publication, but believe me, it is worth it to wait. Thank you. I think I don't need to address anyone. I don't want to talk about politics at the moment. Thank you.
Yes, now we turn to Pak Najib Azkar, please.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator, and thank you also for the audiences, especially Dr. Zubair, actually, who raised a question particularly to me, and I will also respond to some issues coming up from the discussion. First, that actually I would like to add a little bit more about how that Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama play a role in sustainable and inclusive development is actually that the fact that the two largest Muslim organization in Indonesia and even in the world, because of according to some survey, actually the membership or the fellowship or the followership of the Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama people is more than half of Indonesian population. Yeah, so it's really huge number of people who actually join with the movement through Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama. So this very fact is actually already important, because of it means that more than 100 million of Indonesian population, maybe even 120 or 40, is actually part of the movement by Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama. And this is very fact is actually giving significant impact to how the development, the sustainable development and inclusive development should be done in this country. And another thing that I would like to highlight is that through, for example, through the engagement of the member of followers of Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, especially in the grassroots level, through their practicing, let's say, religion by actually caring for the nature. This is actually very strong tenet, very strong teaching of Islam from the very beginning, especially in the rural area, especially in the grassroots level. Our concern contemporarily, actually, very much related with how the elite people actually taking care of the policy in industry, as we just discussed actually about the politics of industrialization, actually the downstreaming and everything, how it really benefit to the people and also caring for the earth. That is one of the important topic. And as long as I know, actually both Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah actually also developing strong international network. Yeah, as my presence here in Lisbon in Portugal is actually part of the CAICI Dialogue Center, Dialogue Forum, which actually global dialogue regarding some issue. Regarding one of the topic we are discussing here is actually regarding the sacred ecology. Actually, how actually religious leader inspire to their followers and also to the world regarding how to care for the earth and to the nature. I would like to shortly here a quote from Yahya Khalil Stakuf regarding actually how environment is important from the point of view of Islamic perspective. For example, that compared to although in much of the world, environmental problems are often treated as a matter of secondary or even peripheral importance when compared to supposedly more pressing concern. I would like to humbly suggest that from an Islamic perspective, environmental stewardship is a divine obligation central to our very presence on earth. But this is actually very strong message to the world, to the all religious leader coming up to this forum. Also, this is actually part of what the General Chairman of Nahdlatul Ulama, Yahya Khalil Stakuf, said in the COP18 in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, in Abu Dhabi, I think last year, if not mistaken, actually regarding how actually the United Nations summit for climate change. So this is actually part of the importance of global collaboration, which is actually part of the topic of this conference, the importance of sending a message and building a network of actors or activists in taking care of the earth, to taking care of the ecology. So I think this is important role can be played by religious peace and mass organization in Indonesia, which is actually part of the global network of activism. So I think that is my short response to Dr. Zubair and to others comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Dr. Najib Aska. I'm mindful there might be questions, but as our lunch time is approaching and parallel sessions will come next, I don't want to shorten your lunch time, right? So before closing, it might sound differently if I said in English. Let me say in Bahasa about pantun, our local wisdom. So, are you ready for yell? All right. Hendak kemana si Tuan Sultan? Ke acara ICSPS dari negeri Australia. Ucapan terima kasih kami haturkan. Semoga kita kembali berjumpa. So, thanks all speakers for for sharing your knowledge and your remarkable views with us, and for audience participants. thank you so much for joining this conference. See you all. I will give back to MC. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, thank you very much for this amazing discussion. So this time I would like to call the speakers and moderator to receive the souvenir in front of the stage. First, kindly please Professor Zuriatun Toiba as Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences to pass on the souvenir to Professor Adam Osamai. Thank you. Next, kindly please Dr. Hanoma Daulay as Chairman of the Association of Indonesian Sociology Study Programs to pass on the souvenirs to Dr. Melissa Carmen. Next, kindly please Dr. Ahmad Abrori as Conference General Chair ICSPS to pass on the souvenir to Professor Ida Widyaningsih. Thank you. Next, kindly please Dr. Ahmad Abrori to pass on souvenir to Professor IIM Halimatus Sa'diyah. Thank you. So next, kindly please Dr. Joharatul Jamila as Conference General Chair APSSI to pass on the souvenir to our moderator, Mr. Faisal Nurdin Idris. Thank you. Before we conclude today's discussion, I would like to invite all the panelists and moderator, along with Professor Zuriatun Toiba, Dr. Hamona Daulay, Dr. Ahmad Abrori, Dr. Joharatul Jamila to take a group photo together in front of the stage. Next, we will take photo together with the audience too. So please to all panels to stand here and turn towards the stage. And to the audience, please stand up. We will take a photo together. The audience, please stand up. We will take a photo together. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Langsung aja ya, Bu, tutup ya. Oke. Ini yang kayak kita tutup. With that, today's event has now come to the end. I extend my gratitude to all panelists for sharing their insights, to our moderator for facilitating the discussion, and to all participants who actively participated. We hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as we did. I'm Anggita Sablaisna and my partner Layuna Arinal Hakwe, as matter of ceremony today's event, are saying goodbye. Thank you all and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Hadirin yang kami hormati, usai sudah acara kita pada hari ini. Kami ucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada moderator, para speaker, dan juga antusias dari hadirin sekalian. Saya Layuna Hakwe dan Anggita Salsabila Hisna sebagai pemandu acara pamit undur diri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan diberitahukan kepada peserta untuk segera melakukan ramah tamah di lantai 1 setelah acara. Terima kasih.